Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am here with my partner and good friend, Jeff. Jeff, how are you doing?
Hey, doing great, man. It's a good day. Good day.
Great day. So what we wanted to do, we want to actually bring and do a live masterclass only on equipment financing. The reason we're doing this is real simple. We get the same questions and the same problems and the same challenges every transaction we do for equipment. Okay, so if we can get ahead of it and teach you guys, even if you don't choose to work with us, it'll still help you guys get the equipment. And then most of you will wind up working with us anyway, because very few people actually do equipment financing and they don't get it done the way we get it done with our rates, our terms, and following the right process. So with that being said, I'm going to pop up a couple slides and we're going to go through everything. Please, if you have questions, type them in. If you are on this live right now and you guys can share it, the more people it reaches, the better. I'd really appreciate that. All right, so we're going to go, and you have no slides. So my computer, and forgive me as I'm putting this together, I have not. Extra camera, share screen. There we go. That's the easiest easiest way to do this. Boom. There we go. Can everyone see that? Jeff, you can see that, right?
Yep.
All right. So guys, first things first, every single business needs equipment. All right. Couple things we're going to go over is one, what is actually going to get you guys the best rates, best terms, and get it done quick, fast, and easy. All right. The number one thing that I see as a roadblock to getting equipment finance is usually the vendor. Okay. That means if you're at a dealership, you're at a vendor. Some vendors are great. I've had a lot of great vendors. I've also had very challenging vendors. All right. I'll give you guys a quick example of a challenging vendor. One didn't complete the title paperwork, and there were penalties for not doing that. I had to work with the client to get the penalties waived, and I had to work with the vendor 3 months after the fact to actually do what they were supposed to do. All right. So when you're picking a vendor, you want to make sure you look for reviews and they have what you need. All right. The question I get all the time is, what exactly should I get, a new model, a used model? The reality is it doesn't really make a difference as long as it's not 9 years or older. It has to be newer. And you should pick out the piece of equipment that you're going to have the highest return on, meaning you're going to make most money and be most beneficial to the business. That's the piece of equipment that you should get. The price is kind of irrelevant when you're financing it over 5 years. All right. Next, there has been a huge surge and demand in equipment, from vehicles to forklifts to yellow iron, anything that you can think of. With that being said, make sure that when you find the right equipment, you get the invoice and you leave a deposit, and the deposit should be reflected on the invoice. Okay. Now, if you're going to a dealership, they're not going to have an invoice. They're going to give you something called an MSO. Okay. Same exact function. And if you're buying any equipment that is titled like a vehicle, okay, you want to make sure that you also ask for the front and back of the title, because it's going to have all the relevant information that has to go on there for the agreement when it's time to sign and complete the agreement and get the equipment paid for. All right. When you're doing this, the invoice, you have to make sure it has a couple things. This will save you guys a lot of time, effort, and energy if done correctly. You want your legal business name, your address, the purchase price, year, make, model, mileage, hours, any relevant information. If it has a VIN number, you're going to want the VIN number on that. Now, if you're buying a used piece of equipment, everything kind of works the same, except instead of an invoice, you're going to get a purchase and sale agreement. But it needs all of that information on there to be able to go through. And then the last piece of this is make sure you get funding instructions or wiring instructions, right? If you have that, it's very simple. Once the agreement's signed, the bank or the underwriter we're utilizing knows exactly where to send the money. It's quick, easy, and you're going to get this done in very little time. Jeff, what questions would you have just on best practices?
So, not so much a question, but something I've experienced too with some of my clients and seeing that you've seen more than I have. But this is last year, and we had a guy buying some equipment from another contractor supposedly, and just happened to not have some of that information because all 4 pieces of equipment they bought that was yellow steel, so kind of expensive, were, survey says, stolen. That's why I didn't have all that information. But, oh, hey, it's okay, we wrote the purchase. No, if you don't have all this information, something's wrong. There's a reason they don't have that. Because normal people doing normal business have all the information. It's very clean, the title, all that good stuff. I think a lot of times the biggest question, and what I've had people ask me as well, is it's hard for them to understand it's okay to go pick something out, put a deposit, then get the money. Because they think, well, if I don't have the money, how do I know what I can get? And it's a math. You mentioned this earlier. The price is not as relevant because if it's worth that, then you can get funding for that. Because just like with cars, if you're going to get a car loan, it's one of the easiest things to get. Why? Because you don't pay, guess what? They take the car. Real simple.
Yep.
They're going to take that car. So same thing with equipment financing. It's a little bit easier. As you mentioned, it's quick, but it's a change in mindset. Normally people think, well, I got to get money. Now I know what I got. Now I can go shopping. No. Go shopping for what you need where it makes sense for that equipment to add to your business and then come back, get the financing. And if you can't get the financing, that's also a red flag. That's a way to protect yourself because you can't get financing. It means the numbers don't work. It's way overpriced. It doesn't add up. Then you go get your deposit back and go somewhere else.
100%. You're actually underwriting the price that you're paying for the equipment. That's one of the benefits of equipment financing, right? Mm-hmm. And most people don't realize that, but you want to make sure that you're getting a fair market price for that equipment. That's how you do that.
Exactly.
All right. Now, that was best practice for new. We're going to go into best practice for buying used equipment. Okay. It's basically called a private party sale. All right. Because you're buying it from a private party, not a dealership. You're going to need a purchase and sale agreement. You need to leave a deposit. You need the funding and wiring instructions. You need the title. You need a picture with the VINs. And pictures can help. Pictures can be your friend here. Because if you have current pictures, right, that you're giving the underwriter more information, and he's going to feel more comfortable about the condition of that equipment. If it's beat up, they might not want to do it. And by the way, if they don't want to do it, you don't want to buy it. So just keep that in mind. All right. Now, here's everything you're going to need to include on that purchase and sale. Okay. Purchase price, year, make, model, funding instructions, mileage, hours, amount owed after deposit. I can't stress this enough. If you leave a deposit, you want one, a receipt, and two, you want that on the invoice. So my underwriter or our underwriter knows exactly how much you need to finance. All right. And the deposit is not a down payment. Most times you can finance equipment with no money down. You're only doing that to hold the equipment because so many clients don't, I've had it happen where they don't do that. And then the equipment, when they go back for it, is sold out from underneath them. Right. And then you got to change the agreement and change everything. And it just creates a delay. Always leave a deposit. All right. Now let's talk about where you can get equipment financing from. Banks, brokers, internal financing from vendors, and marketplace lenders. Guys, the differences are not every bank is going to have an equipment financing program. Okay. The ones that do, you might get a great rate, especially if it's a local credit union. Not a bad place to try. Most brokers do not actually have equipment financing. Most of the time, they're going to come back to you with a cash advance or a program that just doesn't fit. The internal financing from vendors, that can be attractive if it's done right. However, a lot of times the vendors will actually just farm that out to a company like ours. And so you want to make sure that you're getting a great deal or a fair deal on it. I would always say go with your trusted source. And then marketplace lenders like us, all we're doing is we're going to 4 or 5 of our underwriters, showing them a soft credit pull, some real easy information. And we're basically making sure we're bouncing term and rate off of them so they compete for your business. Ultimately, you want to be in that scenario where you have a trusted source that is going to do the heavy lifting for you. All right, Jeff.
Right. I think of this when you're shopping. So many people are in business. They end up getting a merchant service provider or credit card provider from their bank. They assume their bank has the best relationship. Sometimes they do. Most often they don't. And they just bundle it with stuff, and they assume because of convenience that the clients will take it, and it's convenient. That's worth something. But if you want a better rate, that's not usually where you find it, because they got one provider, and they're taking that rate no matter what it is. And they get commission on that, by the way. So if you come to somebody that can shop the marketplace, well, these guys do better with this. These guys do better with this. You fit here better. Now you have options like a buffet. You're probably going to have a better shot at getting the right deal that you deserve, right? So just like with credit cards, equipment financing, some banks don't want to play with that. They'll say they do, but they'll roll you into a different program, or you'll get some other brokers that they say to do this and that, and they roll it all into MCA, and now you're paying 4 times the rate or worse, okay? And they just kind of bait and switch you. But if you come to somebody that has legitimate programs in this, has the right lenders and financial wherewithal, that's what they do. Someone like love yellow metal. If you're talking about yellow metal, think about the stuff you play with as a kid. Tonka truck, only the full-size ones, right? That kind of cool stuff. That's yellow metal. It's expensive, but you need it, and it's worth a lot, and the banks will finance it because, again, you don't pay, they'll come take your bulldozer, right? But the point is this. Go to the place that has better volume, better options. That way you get what fits you. It's not one size fits all for every kind of lending. You got to find what fits you. Long-term, short-term, equipment, non. All lenders have their preferences and their specialties of what fits for their people. And when you come to somebody like us, number one, we're going to educate you about this. We're not here to try to make a quick buck off somebody. We're trying to help people learn the crap they didn't teach us in school. We have to find out the hard way over a lot of lessons, right? That's number one. That's most important. And two, if we can help you, great. If not, now you know better, so you don't end up getting screwed by some deal that you shouldn't have done. That's the big part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing is making sure that the financing is done right. And part of that is consulting with a specialist or your accountant prior, because you're going to have these options, right? And a lot of people don't know that there's multiple different ways to buy equipment, all right? The easiest way, and I'm going to explain all of these, but these are the 4 main types of equipment financing you can do to get equipment. One is just a straight purchase. It'll be financed over 3 to 5 years. And I break all these down. Another one is a lease. Then you have a lease with a dollar buyout. And then if you do own valuable equipment free and clear, or there's a lot of equity there and you need to get cash, a sale leaseback is something to consider. It's not something we do a lot of, but as we go through these 4 choices, you will understand what your options are and how you should approach it. All right. So let's talk about some of the benefits of using equipment financing. First off, you have tax savings. All right. And on each of those, the tax savings, believe it or not, are different, right? So if you're financing it versus leasing it versus a lease with a dollar buyout, all of those have different tax savings. 2, and no one knows about this, but before a lender will actually lend to you, they want to see what your comparable debt looks like. Your comparable debt is any type of like or similar debt that you've made 12 monthly payments on. For example, if I have $100,000 for a truck, okay, and I made 12 payments on it, it shows I can afford that type of loan. It also will allow you to, now because I have a proven track record, get, if everything stayed the same from when I purchased a truck to now, meaning no revenue growth, no credit increase, nothing, just everything was the same. The next time I need equipment, I should be able to get 1.5 to 2 times my comparable debt. So that $100,000 truck actually frees me up and gives me the ability to go out and get equipment that's anywhere from 150 to 200,000. That's why anytime you have the ability to finance equipment that is over $10,000, you should. Cash is king. Save your cash, finance it, and then 1, get the tax savings. 2, you're keeping your cash, which is the most important thing, and especially in times like this. All right.
Right. And by the way, this is something that I learned from John. John is brilliant at the way he lays stuff out and understands the whole system because you've been involved in it so long. You and I became good friends and started doing business together. That's something that was a blind spot for me. I did not understand that. It makes total sense. It makes sense. But until you explain that to me about comparable debt, if you haven't been trusted with this much, how the hell is somebody going to trust you with this much, right? You haven't shown your ability. So even people that pay off their credit card every single month, they pay off the credit card, they think that's good. Not necessarily. Maybe stop listening to Dave Ramsey and realize you have to show that you can have some debts on your books and manage it and not implode, because some idiots make a little bit of money. They go out and buy a bunch of cars they can't afford. They buy big screen TVs can't afford and go be about that life while they're running up debt, and now they can't pay it. And now they're screwed. Meanwhile, some people run some debt and can manage it. They're responsible. They say, hey, I pay my debts. You know, what is that from Game of Thrones? Lannister pays their debts or whatever it is. Yeah. So you sure you can do that? Okay, we'll trust you a little more. Sure you can do that? We'll trust you a little more. Because that's, as you get bigger, you can't expect to get, $500,000, $1 million when you haven't been shown you can handle $100, right? So people get screwed. And one of the biggest things I think about once you explain it to me, again, thank you, is the people that get lured in with no interest for 12 months. Furniture companies, Best Buy, the other place, run that like crazy, right? It's a great deal. Yep. You buy a bunch of furniture, no money down, no interest, no payments for 12 months. Until you read the fine print, on month 12, bam, they get you with all the back interest, and they load it up. So when I do that, because I like free money, I like no interest money, I take whatever the number is, divide by 10, and Beth, Beth, she puts in the books. We make 10 payments. That way, we're not even close to that 12. Just be careful. Yep. But now I save money, but I managed it that way. So again, when we're doing this with equipment, it's the same idea. You need to have that allocated as part of your budget. It's not money you can pay someday, one day free money. No, you better pay that stuff. And if not, you're going down. But if you pay it well, now you expand your company's ability to scale quick. And this is one thing I want to mention real quick here. When what you just said, cash is king. Right now, we're in massive time of uncertainty, right? There's going to be blood in the streets soon. And as the saying always goes, you don't have to outrun the bear. You just have to outrun the other guy. So right now, being smart means there's going to be opportunities. There's going to be stuff where other business going out of business, you can buy stuff cheap, like real cheap. There's opportunities you can swallow the whole company even. But if you save your cash, you can move now. But if you have it all locked away, you have no cash, but I'm debt free. Well, good luck. You're going to go apply for a loan. It's going to take 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, if that. And it's going to be a high interest rate. Meanwhile, other people got cash, there you bought it. You lost the opportunity. Yep. So using your financing builds your power to get stuff and also preserves your cash as a safety net and an opportunity pile to go after stuff.
Absolutely. And guys, when you're financing equipment over 5 years, you're going to have low monthly payments, right? That's a huge benefit. You're getting the equipment that you need for growth, and you're building your balance sheet. Equipment that is leased is not the same as you owning it, okay? It's not an asset. It's actually a liability. When you own it, it's now an asset, and it builds your balance sheet, right? Not only that, you're keeping your cash, and when you do equipment financing right, it goes only under the business. Even though you're signing for it, it's going under the business, and you're building business credit. Okay.
And if you haven't watched our whole video on business credit, we just did a whole training on that. If you didn't catch that, go back and listen to that, watch that, because that blends right into this and how it gets used to build real wealth and build your business ability to go do it as an entity.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about some of the terms for a straight finance deal. Okay. Straight finance, you're going to be looking at 2 to 6 year terms. You're going to be looking at monthly payments, and interest rates for most people are going to be between, let's say, 7 and 15%. If you're high risk, could it be higher? Yes. I've seen 15 to 25, but that's very rare. And it's only newer companies or people that don't have ideal credit. It's very rare to see something that high.
But at the end of the day, if the math works, the math works. If you've done the math, if I get this piece of equipment, you generate this much money, which means it can pay off that 20% and still make me money, I do that deal all day long. You have to show what's going to affect your business. You're not buying a big screen TV, not buying a gold watch. You're buying equipment that makes your business money. If you keep that focused, I don't care what the interest rate is, as long as the math adds up to make me profit, and I can refinance later or improve later as I get bigger.
Absolutely. So many people don't fall or subscribe into that. And the bottom line is, if you are borrowing for anything, you want your return to be higher than the payment, and you want how much money you make to be much more than the actual cost of the capital you borrowed.
Right.
All right. And if those two things check out, it makes sense. All right. Now, here's something that a lot of people don't know. Equipment financing, for the most part, they don't really give discounts or prepayment incentives. So it's something that you need to ask for upfront, and it's got to be worked out before signing. Is it easy or possible to do? Yes. But most banks do not give you, they don't waive the remaining interest. So
right. They want to make their money.
Exactly. There's no point in.
That's how the banks have those nice marble floors and the $5,000 seats in their offices. Yeah, they gotta make money.
Yeah. But can you get prepayment incentives and discounts? Yes, it has to be worked out before signing. The other thing is, it is very common to see a document fee, okay, or an underwriting fee. It's usually going to be between $3.99 and $5.99. It depends on the size and how many pieces of equipment. All right, that's normal. You'll still see that on a lease with a dollar buyout. You'll see it on a lease. All right. Now, what do you need for typical equipment financing on an existing business? All right. Anything under 2 years is considered startup. So you want to be in business 2 years. You want your credit above 620. Now, I have done deals and we've helped clients that were in the high fives. All right. But ideally, you want at least 620, 700 is preferred. The other thing is, they're going to look at your business credit. You want strong business credit. They want to see good cash flow. And I'll tell you this, anything above 150, they might look at your tax return or your financials, your year-to-date financials. That's not uncommon. The highest I've ever gone without needing financials has been 250. But some underwriters will ask for them 150 or over. And then obviously we touched on comparable debt. They do want to see comparable debt on the business. Jeff, anything there?
Yeah. So one of the questions I also get, and I know a little bit, but I'll defer to you here. Are there any kinds of equipment that they don't like to finance or consider high risk because of the kind of equipment? Is there any stratification, any levels to it when it comes to the actual kind of equipment they're going after?
All right, that is an amazing question, and I didn't cover it here because it's a bit of a complex answer. So older equipment like trucks or over-the-road trucks that are over 9 years old, they don't like. Okay, anything that's over 9 years old that is not yellow iron, they really don't like. Yellow iron tends to hold their value, so it's easier to finance. But people don't understand what you can actually use equipment financing for. I've actually helped people buy a business using equipment financing. Okay. You can finance almost any equipment for the business. So if you own a restaurant, it could be tables, chairs, menus, silverware, an oven. Okay. If you own a tech company and you have certain software, let's say the software is a 2-year agreement, you can actually finance that software. But they're going to cap you at 2 years. Okay. So most of the everyday stuff you need for your business, you can use. The difference of if it's hard to get financing for or not really lies in how much value does it have after it leaves the showroom floor. Mm-hmm. All right. That's
along that same line, I think there'll be more opportunities. We've done this a few times, Jeff and I have, in our brokerage. Some companies, they're not worth a lot because they've been trending down. People stayed way past their burnout phase, been driving the company in the ground. So guess what? The company's basically worth the equipment. So you can ship right in equipment financing and pick up the whole company.
Correct. You could also use equipment financing. Let's say you have a seller that wants it's $1 million. They have $600,000 in equipment, and he's willing to sell or finance some of it. Well, guess what? You could actually go in, buy all the equipment for $600,000, finance it over 5 years, and then make payments to, the owner or the former owner for the remaining 400,000. So if you are smart, you can actually use equipment financing for a lot of things that most people don't even think of. Now, if you are a new business, meaning under 2 years old, here's how you get equipment financing. You need to have your credit above 700. You need home ownership, believe it or not, because it shows stability. You're going to need strong or decent business credit. You're going to need good cash flow. And it's the same thing. If you don't have comparable debt, they get it. It's a startup. And then anything over 150, they're going to want to see financials. Sometimes that'll work. Sometimes it won't work. Depends on where you are in the startup phase. If you're just starting off, obviously you don't have financials. But if you're a year in, you're going to have financials, and it's going to be a little bit easier for you to get approved because you at least have a year of history to go off of.
So when you say good cash flow, define that. What's good cash flow? I'm sure it's relative to the equipment too, but is there any rule of thumb or ratio that you look at? How does somebody know if they have good cash flow?
Absolutely. So good cash flow looks like no negative days, and it's keeping 10% of your monthly sales average in your business bank account at all times. So if you're doing 100,000 a month, you should always, always, always have at least 10,000 in the account at all times. Okay, that will help you get approved for all different types of financing options. And then let's go into a lease and kind of talk about leases. You still get great tax savings because the lease is written off, the entire payment. It will still build comparable debt, and you're going to get the low monthly payments. You still get all the equipment you need. And usually they will include an option to purchase the agreement at the end. If you like the equipment, you want to keep it. Okay. You're still going to keep your cash doing an equipment lease, and it'll still help your business credit if it's reported properly, and you're still going to get that equipment. Here's why I do not like leases. You're not building your balance sheet. Okay. It's a liability. It's not an asset. And at the end of the day, I have seen more leases go sideways or bad because what you'll see is some companies will actually put an automatic renewal in. Okay. So you could actually wind up paying 2 to 3 to 4 times the cost of what that equipment is, especially if you get caught in a bad lease, which is why we personally, we don't want to do leases. We will do a lease with $1 buyout, but we typically do not do equipment leasing because there are too many ways for clients to get hurt.
Well, and it's simple math too. Like I've done math on equipment, going like Home Depot. I'm not picking them, but anybody that leases it, short term or long term, you do the math on and realize how much you're overpaying. Holy crap! Just buy it, and you can sell it later. If you only use it for 6 months, buy it and sell it later. You'll make more money. But the lease terms on equipment is just Again, I'm just expressing my opinion, not legal, but it's predatory. You know, when I'm paying them as much to lease this piece of stuff that does something in my yard or wherever else, or for my business, and I'm paying as much to buy the whole damn thing in a couple months, that gets rough. Like Bobcats, I've seen those. Some of the different drilling and the trenchers and stuff. Holy cow, you do the math on it. It's bad. It's bad.
Yeah, I would be very wary of any leases. Now, listen, you'll still get 2 to 6 year terms, monthly payments, and the interest on a lease is going to be very, very similar to the interest if you were financing. Okay. If you do decide to do a lease, you need to work out what the buyout number is before you sign. Okay. They still have the doc fee, and I don't care if you think you're getting the best deal of your life. Never, ever, ever sign an equipment lease that automatically renews. Okay. You will wind up paying 3, 4, 5 times what that piece of equipment costs. And if something happens to it, if you're responsible for the upkeep, it could be a disaster for you, your company, your team. Just be very wary of that. Okay. Now, why do people lease? Well, the qualifications are less, right? Your credit doesn't have to be as strong. Your time in business is not as important, right? You can have decent business credit, okay cash flow, and still get approved. All right. What they're looking at is, does that have great resale value, and do they think you'll make the payments? Okay. Typically, leases have looser guidelines, and that's why so many people gravitate to them. However, it's not the best option to use unless, one, you know it doesn't renew, and two, you know by the time you're done with that equipment, it's going to be worthless, and you know you're going to give it back. Okay. And you want to get a new piece of equipment every, call it 3 to 5 years, that does that thing, right? That whatever equipment you're leasing does. So that's
Well, and like you said, a lot of people do it. Anytime I see the majority of people doing something, I'm like, no, that's not the right answer. And so they do, because it's a path of least resistance. They're overpaying for convenience. They're overpaying because they don't know better. They're paying stupid tax. There's better options. So it's about saying, here's our options. I only thought there was one option. Oh, but I didn't get told about these other 3. At least evaluate your options. And there's going to be some cases where maybe it does make sense to lease. There's going to be a lot of options where it doesn't make sense. So at least do the math and be smart about it. Think a little bit. Use your brain. Compare the options and realize there's more than just one option. If there's one option, they present it that way, it's because it's to their benefit, not yours.
Yeah, exactly. And now here's what we do a lot of, right? So we will do a lot of leases with a dollar buyout. And here's where everyone gets confused. Just because it has the word lease in it doesn't mean you're quote unquote leasing it. A lease with a dollar buyout, for all intents and purposes, is the exact same as financing it. The only thing that changes is the agreement and the dollar buyout at the end. Okay, so when you have a lease with a dollar buyout, it's going to be identical to you financing it. The difference is, in the lease, you could write off the entirety of the payment, okay, except the dollar buyout. And then when you're doing an equipment purchase, you either have to use Section 179, or you have to write down the interest and depreciation as you're paying the interest and as you're depreciating that asset. Okay, so either one works. It just depends really on what your accountant's preference is and where you are come tax time. That's the only difference. So when you see us talk about some of the benefits of a lease with a dollar buyout, you're still building comparable debt, still low monthly payments. You still are getting and owning the equipment that you need for growth, which means it's going to build your balance sheet, means you're keeping your cash in the bank, and it's going to go under your business credit and not yours. And the reason why that's so important is, let's say you need to go get a house in the next year or two. Okay. If you start buying equipment personally and not using the right type of financing and putting it under the business, it can actually count towards your debt to income ratio, and it will actually impact you getting financing for your personal items like a home or like a car. Okay. So make sure you do it. And the other thing is higher tax savings until the dollar buyout. So if you're doing a lease with a dollar buyout, those first 4 years, you're writing off the entire payment. The last year, you're going to have some give back. But think about it. If you strategically go ahead and put all of your equipment on a lease with a dollar buyout, you're going to stagger them. And what will happen is, as some are falling off and you're getting the penalty, or not the penalty, but the give back on the taxes, you already have tax savings because you have another piece of equipment that you're making lease payments on until you own it. All right. Very strategic, very high level, will help you grow your company and help you manage taxes. Okay.
And again, and that's the thing, people don't think about taxes. You need to look at this. Taxes are the biggest demon to just rob you. And so if you're not planning for that and using your CPA to plan for that appropriately, you can get whacked and realize that you just gave up a lot of your growth by just getting government taking your money out of your pocket. So tax implications are one of the biggest things that rob business owners like us. So look at that and understand it. And then that whole, we said the dollar buyout. Again, here what you say. Normally there's principal, there's interest. You only write off that one piece. But if it's all lease, you take advantage of that. Now you start a different value for the rest of the buyout or however it works. So, and again, a lot of times you can then sell it, buy it for $1, sell it, and get a whole new piece of equipment. There's always options where you can find out how you can leverage it and how you can be in a better position for your cash, and you're just rolling things over.
Yeah. And guys, this is stuff like Jeff said earlier, we weren't taught this in school, right? And these are the things that will make a big difference. I had a friend today, a really good friend of mine, tell me that her business, they sat down with their accountant. Excuse me. The accountant said they're going to probably owe about 140,000 in taxes. The first thing I asked is, do you need any equipment? Okay. Because if she was able to get or need a piece of equipment, she could reduce her liability that's coming up at the end of the year. All right. If you look at what the qualifications are for a lease with a dollar buyout, it's the exact same as equipment financing. Here's how this works. If you came to us and said, hey, I want to get this piece of equipment, the first thing I'm going to do is review all this stuff with you. And then I'm going to say, go ask your accountant if he wants a lease with a dollar buyout or a straight financing option. Once my underwriter approves it, then I'll tell them, hey, this is going to be a lease with a dollar buyout or a straight finance deal. The only thing that changes is the agreement. It's that simple. All right. Jeff, you got anything on that?
Again, it's understanding things we've said a couple times, things you were never told, never understood. Lease a dollar buyout is not really a lease. It is, but it just has very beneficial tax consequences, and it has benefits for the other side too, by the way. But it puts boundaries on things. It puts a set price. It puts everything all together, just like if you're leasing a car. So years back, when prices would drop, and trucks especially would drop so much of value, it didn't really make sense to lease a lot of them because they take such a big drop because you're paying the differential, right? And then when trucks started holding their value, holy cow, leasing a truck, not in all cases, but many cases, including many of mine, it made more sense to lease it and then use that money to buy something else. It just, you have to fit the situation to what you need. And this is something we talk about in almost every video. Match the financial product, the financing of what you need, to its purpose. There's not one financing tool that fits everything. They're all different. So just like when you look at cost of capital, and some people freak out, oh my God, it's 24%. Yeah, it's over 6 months. That's it. Okay. I'm not worried about 24% over 6 months. Now, over 30 years, I'm concerned. Okay. But when you start looking at total cost of capital, so it's fitting that tool, fitting that financial product to what you need, and then understand the nuance. We just showed lease and buyback, or a dollar buyout. They're different, and understanding that will help you. And then using your professionals like your CPA will help you do what's right for your situation.
Exactly. And then this is the last one. This doesn't come up a lot, but it is a decent or great way to borrow money, okay, for your business. So if you have a piece of equipment that's paid off or there's a lot of equity in it, right, and it's a small balance, you can actually sell that equipment to a finance company and then lease it back from them, and you'll still own it at the end. It's just a way to leverage your existing assets to get money to continue growing your company. And the way this works is typically they're going to assign a liquidation value on the equipment, and they'll let you borrow up to half. Okay. So quick example, if a used press brake is worth $35,000 and its liquidation value, meaning you took it to auction and you're liquidating it, is $25,000, they'll probably let you borrow up to, let's say, $12,500 on that. Okay. And then you'll pay it back probably in like a 2 to 3 year term. All right. And by the way, guys, sale leaseback, still, you'll have a low monthly payment. You get the financing you need for growth, helps you in a pinch. You're still building comparable debt, and you're using an asset for growth instead of having to borrow more expensive money through like a cash advance or something like that. All right. Now, typically, this is when we leave it open for questions. Okay. So I know we got a bunch of people on. I want to take any questions now that you guys have. No? All right. Well, do us a favor, guys. Share this with someone that needs to see it. And we are opening up Capital Tools to the public. Okay. This is the type of information and guidance you're going to get in Capital Tools. It would be absolutely crazy to not spend the $500 and get an MBA in finance, basically, without going to college.
You do one deal, you're going to save more than that on the deal doing it right. Yeah.
Exactly. The first time you need financing, Capital Tools will pay off in spades. All right.
That's simple.
So we appreciate it. Jeff, dude, you killed it. Thank you. Guys, thanks for tuning in.
Man.
Likewise. And we'll catch
Yeah.
you on the next one.